Welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the corner of YouTube where feelings take center stage and hidden chapters finally get read aloud. Today we step into the tender and complicated world of Yağmur Yüksel and Barış Baktaş, two names that once felt like a promise, and still echo like a memory. After a long, carefully guarded silence, Yağmur's heartfelt revelation about her former partner has turned the conversation back to a love story that just won't slip away. If you haven't already, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, tap the like button, and hit join to support our growing family. Let's walk into this with open hearts. In a landscape where fame can grind even the strongest bonds to dust, Yağmur Yüksel's recent comments about Barış Baktaş arrived like a hush that quieted the busiest room. She appeared on a special television program, serene, luminous, and measured, and chose to speak, not as a headline, but as a human being. A gentle smile, a steadiness in her gaze, and a quiver you could hear if you leaned in close, she let the cameras witness something sincere. When the host softly asked what love meant to her now, Yağmur waited. She drew in air like she was gathering courage, and then she spoke with a vulnerability that made even the studio lights seem kinder. Sometimes, she said, a person slips into your life and becomes more than a role, more than partner, more than a name. They become a friend, a harbor, a quiet room where your breath evens out and your worries sit down. You could feel the audience lean into every word. It wasn't performance. It was confession wrapped in calm. She said that finding someone who loves the way Barış loves is rare, rare like the first cool night after an unbearable heat wave. She didn't paint him as perfect, she painted him as present. He knew how to hold her when she shone, and somehow held tighter when she didn't. The silence that followed was not empty. It was the sound of people recognizing themselves in a story they'd only ever watched from far away. Even the crew who have seen it all seemed moved, as if they'd stumbled onto a truth that didn't need a spotlight to shine. Yağmur didn't pretend their path had been smooth. She spoke about the challenges that shook them, distances that stretched like rubber bands, schedules that ate their hours, a public that watched too closely and said too much. They stumbled, she admitted, like anyone does. But when she reached for a hand, she found his. It wasn't tragedy. It was learning. It was two people trying to be brave in the same direction. She described Barış as the person who showed up during loss and exhaustion, the one who understood that life is fragile and love is a choice you keep making. Patience, she said, was a lesson he taught without lecturing. Real love isn't a fairy tale. It's the quiet, relentless decision to stand shoulder to shoulder when the magic fades and the work begins. Those sentences didn't just air, they traveled. Within hours, timelines filled with old clips, candid photos, and fragments of interviews. Fans wrote things like, "You can hear the truth in her pauses, you don't fake a tremble like that, this is what devotion looks like when you take off the makeup." It was more than nostalgia. It was permission to feel something again for two people a lot of us weren't done rooting for. Her words became a spark, and that spark raced across the internet like dry grass in summer. Later in the broadcast, the host asked if there was a first moment she'd never forgotten, and Yağmur let out a breathy laugh that cracked right down the middle. She talked about the first time she met Barış, about how her chest tightened for no reason that made sense, like her heart knew a tune her mind hadn't learned yet. From the start, she said, there was an ease. No mask. No need to pose. With him, she could be unpolished and still feel seen. Sometimes the simplest sentence leaves the loudest echo, and that one did. Their connection never played by the tabloid rulebook. While other romances dimmed under scandal or routine, something about theirs grew stronger even when miles got between them. Once, a magazine called them two clocks set to the same time even when they ticked in different rooms. Maybe it was cheesy. Maybe it was accurate. The end of the interview didn't blur her sincerity. Everyone deserves a Barış, she said in so many words, someone who reminds you that love isn't a glossy picture but a mirror that reflects the person you are when no one is clapping. Shortly after the program aired, close sources whispered that Barış Baktaş heard her words and went quiet in that way men do when they're trying not to feel too much at once. He'd always tried to give her the kind of love she could trust, he reportedly told friends, because she felt like his best chance at something that wasn't pretend. It wasn't a press release. It was a sentence traded in confidence, but it carried the same clean honesty that once defined them. And then the next morning, on his Instagram, a black and white image appeared. No faces. Just a slant of light on a table and a caption, "Sometimes a smile says what you can't." Fans didn't need more. They decided it was an answer, as clear as a nod across a crowded room. When Yağmur left the studio, cameras waited. She looked put together but softened, her eyes a little glassy, her mouth a careful line that wanted to curve. A reporter called out, "Have you spoken to Barış since the show?" She paused like she was catching a memory and said, "Not yet, but I think he knows what I meant." It wasn't a deflection or a tease. It was the acknowledgement of a thread that still ran between two people, invisible to some, unbreakable to others. You could feel the rumor mill heat up instantly. Were they together again? Were they meeting in secret? Were those invitations we heard about for two? Friends close to both of them hinted that not long ago they'd been seen at a small birthday gathering, the kind of night where music is low and laughter sticks to the walls. A producer who was there said the air changed when they stood next to each other. Not fireworks. Not spectacle. Just that quiet hum you recognize if you've ever been near a love that isn't finished. After the interview, speculation didn't just return, it tripled. The internet turned one question into a chorus: are Yağmur and Barış finding their way back? Someone close to Barış added a log to that fire: when he's around her, the edges come off. He breathes differently. She brings him home to himself. Maybe a reunion is a story nobody can write yet, but what can't be denied is simple: their connection long ago stretched beyond two names on a marquee. It became a place people go when they want to believe that love can survive scheduling wars, the ache of distance, and the exhausting glare of attention. As clips from the show kept circulating, one line rose above the rest and settled into timelines like a favorite lyric: "It's not easy to find a man who loves the way Barış does." Even the gossip rags that prefer mess over meaning had to step back and admit there was something unusually bare about the way she spoke. Commentators described the interview as a vulnerability we rarely see on camera, a refusal to rewrite the past as bitterness or pretend the future is a sure thing. In a world of curated feeds and practiced answers, this felt stubbornly, almost painfully real. By dawn the next day, Turkish entertainment programs were dissecting the interview frame by frame. Every breath, every blink, the way her voice thinned and then settled, the way she smiled without showing all her teeth. Pundits said it wasn't a stunt, they said it was two people telling a truth they didn't owe anyone. And in living rooms across the country, viewers recognized themselves again, the longing to be chosen. The fear of being misunderstood, the hope that time doesn't close doors as much as it creaks them open for a second try. Here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we can't help but ask the question you're all asking in your group chats: is this the moment where a second chapter begins? Do you believe in circles closing and opening again, in hearts that manage to find each other after getting lost? Tell us what you think in the comments. We read them, we argue with them, we carry them into the next video. And if you're with us on this, like this video, subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, and tap join to be part of this circle that still believes stories can mend what they once broke. What Yağmur shared didn't feel rehearsed. It landed like truth wrapped in tenderness. Her words didn't chase a perfect ending, they reminded us that not all endings are endings at all. Sometimes they're pauses. Sometimes they're ellipses. Sometimes they're a door left on the latch for a night you didn't plan to come back. Maybe that's why this confession hit so deep: it let us feel the complicated, unglamorous parts of love without asking us to choose sides. As those echoes continue across screens and hearts, one thing becomes hard to argue with: some stories don't need a grand finale to be unforgettable. Maybe the real magic is in the quiet look across a room, the message that doesn't need to be sent because the meaning is already understood, the way a song comes on in a car and two people remember the same Tuesday. So we say thank you for walking this road with us, for keeping the faith that sincerity still matters, that gentleness can still make noise. Thank you for watching Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Until next time, keep rooting for love, keep being kind even when it costs you time, and remember this: the right smile doesn't try too hard, it arrives, It softens the room, and it tells the story you were too afraid to speak out loud.